Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2267. Today we're going to have a little fun with a number member of the Classic.com team who's here to talk about a new program they started called Classic.com Pro. It's all about selling cars, buying cars, having fun with cars online. So here we go. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today, I'm in Arlington, Texas, with a very special guest by the name of Joey Pomerenke. Joey, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
I'm dropping it. Let's do this.
All right, laying down some stripes as they do. So before I give you a proper introduction and we dive into your world, what's one little thing that most people don't know about you, Joey?
Oh, man. I feel like I have to
divulge not too many dark secrets.
come up with something good for your listeners.
Yes, please.
Let's do. It's about 10 years ago, I had the privilege of writing part of a speech for one of our former presidents. Not a lot of people know that.
Like President of the United States?
Like President of the
Really?
United States.
How on earth did you get that task?
So I was a co-founder of a nonprofit organization that me and some friends started. I guess the backstory history there was really about supporting entrepreneurship, and we grew it to a kind of a global scale, started doing some White House initiatives. And at the time, we were a part of basically what they called the Global Entrepreneurship Summit that President Obama, he ended up launching. It started in DC and became something they did every year in various cities around the world. And gosh, what was it? 2013, I believe. It was in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And we were a part of, he was flying over to do a speech there. We were a part of that. And so I had to put together a paragraph on really what we were doing, and went back and forth with the I guess his speechwriter, and ended up putting words in the president's mouth, I guess, so to speak.
How cool is that? Yeah.
Yeah. It was unfortunate. That was kind of during the time of when the government shut down for a little bit, so he wasn't able to fly over. Oh, but he did a video of the entire speech and played it to the audience. So still put words in his mouth.
Isn't that funny? That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah. Put words in the president's mouth. There you go. Very cool. Well, what a fun experience that must be. All right. Well, let me give you a proper introduction. Joey Pomerenke is the Director of Consignments at Classic.com. He spent his early career in marketing leadership roles as venture-backed technology startups. Joey founded an agency that worked directly with over 100 technology startups on growth initiatives. And after selling his last company, he combined his expertise in marketing and PR with his passion for automobiles, founding a successful automotive marketing company that landed on the Inc. 500's list of fastest growing private companies in the U.S. back in 2021. He's an avid collector with an eclectic selection of cars in his stable that we'll be talking about today. He joined Classic.com in October of 2022 to launch their new Classic.com Pro initiative. We'll learn more about that and Joey in a moment, but first a word from our sponsors, so give them a little love. As I keep saying, they put the petrol in the tanks here, so that's a good thing, and we'll be right back. Years ago, when it was time to renew my collector car insurance policy, my carrier's rates went up. Way up, but my usage was the same and I never made a claim. I didn't even have a ticket. So what's with that? So I turned to American Collectors Insurance. Has your collector car insurance recently raised your rates for no good reason? Tired of paying an annual membership fee? Then it's time to look around and call American Collectors Insurance. I shopped around, I asked friends for recommendations, and found a winner that I can trust. And boy, I'm glad I did. I saved hundreds of dollars every year and slept better at night knowing my baby was properly insured. American Collectors Insurance have been protecting vehicles since 1976. They provided me with an agreed value insurance policy backed by their history of taking great care of their clients. What could be better than that? So give them a call and ask for a quote today. 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. And protect the ones you love like I did with American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. Their talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and first-hand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com. If you're listening to this program, there's a pretty good chance you believe what I believe, that the collector vehicles we love are more than just a means of getting from one place to the other. They're a part of our culture, our identity, and as a people, they bring us together at vintage races, classic car auctions, and 1,000-mile rallies. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these important vehicles aren't lost to time. RPM stands for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, and their goal is to inspire the next generation of vehicle restoration professionals through its outreach programs. And they include Shop Hop, Off to the Races, the RPM Future Class, and many others. These programs engage talented young people across the country and connect them with mentors and a variety of opportunities in the industry. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of collector vehicles skilled trade, visit rpm.foundation today. So, Joey, now I've had a couple people that are colleagues of yours on the show. Juan Diego Calle, who, of course, is the leader of the clan there, and Nelson, I believe his brother, right? Or are they cousins? I can't remember. Brother, okay. Yeah, Nelson, his brother, who was on the show as well. And it's great to have you on board. And, Classic.com is an up-and-coming business. It's a wonderful platform to go out there and find, sell, buy cars. But you were tasked with the Classic.com Pro variant, or initiative, I should say. So I'd love for you to share a little deeper about that, what that's all about and how it's coming along.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of it came from, our users and really a need for our users. So obviously we launched Classic.com with the goal of allowing people to find automobiles for sale and, a one-stop shop for that. And more importantly, a place where people can come and get, an unbiased market pricing around what their car is worth or, actual comps for the car. Through that, we started to get a lot of interest around people needing help selling their car. And that kind of spearheaded, this whole conversation around, is there an opportunity for us to be that expert to help our users sell their classic car? A lot of these people that were approaching us, they didn't know how to sell it, right? They didn't know what it was worth. They didn't know what the right channels were. They just happened to have this car and they needed to find a way to sell it. And then obviously other people, they're busy. They have, other stuff going on and they want an expert to sell their car. And I know, Mark, you and I talked about, you sold a Porsche recently. Congrats on that sale, by the way. And you had an expert sell that, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. In fact, I'm really excited because that car, my listeners know about it. I called it my Orange Crush. I had it for 14 years. I went through a long gestation period of deciding to let it go. And I'm sitting here holding the new Porsche Panorama, which is the Porsche Club magazine. And lo and behold, there's my car on the cover and a story about it inside. And I kind of went, well, I've been calling you guys forever when I own the car. How come now that someone else owns it? Maybe he's got more clout than I do. It's there, but I'm actually going to be reunited with that car at the LeMay Museum, and they're having a special exhibit that's happening there of Porsches, and I'm going to be emceeing that when they do the grand opening. So that would be, at the time this show airs, back on the 4th, but it's going to be up at LeMay for a while. But yes, I made that decision because, for a couple of reasons, and I think this is what you guys are learning with Pro, is I wanted to remove myself from the process because I knew I'd get too emotional, too caught up in it. Perhaps I knew I wouldn't be unbiased. I'd be very biased because my car. It's it's a great car. I'm a good guy. My car's a good car. So I made that just choice, and I'm so glad that I did. And I've recommended that to many people. It was recommended to me by a friend of mine who was selling a beautiful E30 M3. And so, yeah, this is what you guys are putting together is cool. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because when you go to sell a car, us car people get wrapped up in these things, and we can get wrapped around the axle, as they say, if we're not careful. And you can really destroy your listing. And the other part of it, which is what you're going to talk about, is you help people vet these cars properly. We all think our let's say our proverbial sheet smells better than what we think. And so, or what it actually does, I should say. So, talk about some of the services here, because I think I know what you're doing is going to be very valuable to many people and many platforms.
Yeah. And that's why I, wanted to use you as an example. I think a lot of enthusiasts and collectors, like we've been doing this for, a while, right? We know that to properly sell our classic or collector, especially vehicle, sometimes it makes sense for an expert to take that on. It might be because, they know the right channel to sell it through, or, to your point, taking some of the emotional side of it out. But more importantly, a lot of people just don't know how to sell a car.
Right.
And that's really the problem that we're trying to solve, right? I think in a nutshell, it's really a virtual consignment program. The cars stay with our clients. You can enjoy them still. They're in your garage. They don't have to sit on a dealership floor somewhere. But we provide all of the services to ultimately sell your car for you. So that could be everything from, helping you value it to, preparing the vehicle to be sold. So, where we provide professional photography, video, inspection service. Obviously, we do all the marketing to, find the right new owner for the car, and then everything post-sale. We're going to take care of all of the Q&A during the sale. We're going to take care of all the paperwork afterward, the logistics, getting the car shipped to the new owner. So really taking that off the owner's hands and making selling your classic or specialty vehicle as painless as possible.
I think it's spectacular, because I look at a lot of cars online, even cars I'm probably never going to buy. And there's so many times I go to look at a vehicle, and let's start with the pictures. Everybody these days thinks they're a good photographer because they got these little digital phones in their hands, but they're not. And I look at cars, the first few shots, and I think, okay, that's a really cool car. And then I start looking at the photos, and I'll give you an example one. Why didn't you vacuum the floor mat before you took the picture?
Yep.
Okay, that just told me that you don't care about your car. Next, I'm not even interested. Goodbye. I mean, little things like that many people don't realize make a big impression on a potential buyer. And then we get into the details of the car. And are they accurate? And somebody makes one little flaw in their listing, and all of a sudden that entire listing has a taint to it.
Yep.
This person doesn't even know what they have. They said, it's this or that or the other thing. So the value in using something like Classic.com Pro Professional to help you with this, really, it's the only way to go, especially if you have a car of substantial value. And you start getting into $50,000 plus. That's real money. That's substantial value to most people.
Yep.
And you want to get every dollar you can out of that. And I think the other part of it is most people, let's say good intent. Most people, I think, have good intent, don't want to deceive anybody. And the worst thing you can do is sell a car, and when it shows up, the person calls you going, "Why didn't you tell me the left front fender had been replaced?" And there's silence on the other end of the phone, right?
Yeah, no, I think transparency, obviously, and this has always been a mission of ours on the classic.com side, right? Is transparent in pricing and all that. And so for us marketing vehicles, it should be the same, right? So, that's why no matter what car goes through our pro program, it has professional photography done. It has a third-party inspection service, that we send them out to do a proper inspection of the vehicle. There's 3 different videos that we require that our photographers do. So, walk around, cold start, test drive of the vehicle. And I think it's important because a large majority of these cars are being sold sight unseen, right?
Right.
And you don't want that phone call after it's delivered.
No.
And it's only going to become, we're already in a digital society, right? And, it's only going to follow suit where classic cars, specialty vehicles, collector cars, whatever it is, more and more and more of these are going to be sold online.
Yeah.
And so it's important to make sure that we're always ahead of that curve and making sure that every little aspect, of representing that car is covered in that listing.
Absolutely. So for Classic.com Pro, is it a menu item? So can people pick and choose what they want to use, or is it all inclusive, everything included? How does that work?
Yeah, so everything's included. It's a package deal. And you were kind of getting to my next point that I wanted to talk about. It's really important for us to make sure that an expert of that particular vehicle is attached to the car. So say you're selling your 911. It's not going to be a generalist on the other end. The pros we are bringing onto our platform are very much experts of their particular market. They've bought and sold likely hundreds of these vehicles. They know them inside and out, and they know what questions to ask. They know proper way to market them. They know the right channels to sell them through. And in the end, that's who you want on your side if you're going to sell your, classic or collector car, somebody that is going to properly represent it, which ultimately will bring the most money for it.
Yeah. Well, and the other aspect of this is valuation, because for my car, because so many people listen to cars, and they knew me, there was a built-in trust there. They knew I'm not going to try to deceive anybody, because the last thing I want to do is taint not only my own personal name, but the name of my brand here. But the other part of it is, and I mentioned it kind of earlier, we typically always think that our things are worth more than perhaps they are. Now, there are some cases where somebody maybe inherited a car from Uncle Joe and they have no idea that 300 SL is something special. They just went, Uncle Joe always had this funny car with the weird doors, and they have no idea. So those people are in for a nice surprise. But for most of us, we are typically told by all our good buddies, and I was an example of this, your car's worth X. Well, you start to believe that. And then when you have somebody come in that is really knowledgeable and they say, well, not really, and I can tell you why, then you can kind of come down from your outer limits planet down to earth and go, okay, this is a price that I really should expect. So you're not disappointed when the car doesn't receive a number and you've spent all this time and money. And then you go, why didn't it sell? And you want to blame everybody. Well, what you're doing is providing a real mark expert to say, look, this is what your car is worth based on what's happened over the past, let's say, 12 months. And that's about what you can expect to get. Now, sometimes fun things happen. Sometimes they don't. The right two guys aren't online bidding against each other. So you never know what's going to happen. So this service, I think, will be invaluable to all levels of people, even people that call themselves somewhat, I say knowledgeable. Like I tend to be very knowledgeable in the car world, especially in Porsches. But still, I've originally thought, well, maybe my car's worth this much. And I use a guy named Rafi Menezi, and he goes, this is where I think it is. And I tell you, we came within 2% of where he thought the car would sell. It was really, really close. And I'm happy with what happened. It went to a really nice collector who is going to take care of it and drives it and enjoys it. So I feel like, okay, my baby is in a new, actually nicer garage than mine. It's living in a very nice collection of cars, which makes me feel really good.
Yeah, it went to a good home, and I think that's really what you wanted, and in the end, that's what happened. So
yeah, exactly. So what else about Classic.com Pro would you like to share with our listeners, so that they can explore this and think about it? And again, I think I'm a great endorsement because it worked for me like a charm, the whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I think two things, right? Obviously, if you're, in the market to sell your car, we'd love to take a look at it. We're happy to connect you to one of our pros and put a valuation on it and tell you more about the program. All you have to do is go to classic.com/sell. And then the other side is we're in the process of expanding our pro network. So, if you're what you would consider an expert in your particular area of automotive expertise, we'd love to hear from you. There's again, go to classic.com/sell. There's a link on there to reach out. That's kind of the plan right now, is to grow out our
build
pro
that
network.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's going to be a big part of where our value is. And people that don't have access to these experts in particular, makes and models, being able to get access to them and them helping sell your car is worth the weight in gold. So, we're excited to see where this goes.
I think it's a great program. Because of what I do, I get reached out to literally every week, sometimes daily. I got one this morning, a guy who's looking to sell 3 vintage motorcycles. And they send me an email saying, hey, I've got these cars. How much do you think they're worth? How should I sell them? And I'm like, why are you asking me? And it's because of my reach. And I think also so many people I've had on the show, sometimes they think they're emailing someone else because they've done a search and it shows up Cars Yeah, and then they use my info at Cars Yeah and so forth. But I get these all the time. And so I know there's a large group of people out there that are looking. And if you think about the demographics happening now, I fall into that baby boomer category. I'm getting a little older. I'm kind of trimming down collections of cars. I'm not as interested in having so much stuff in my life right now. My focus is in some other areas. So there's a lot of people out there doing this. I just had last month Mike Wolf from American Pickers as a guest on my show, and he's selling or sold at Mecum Auctions 70 of his old motorcycles, as he calls them, his as found. And you're thinking somebody that's like that, he just turned 50, so he's younger than me, but he's readjusting his life. He's, I have too much stuff in my life.
Right.
Go figure, the guy that goes out and picks barns all over the country. But he said, I'm trying to cull my collection down to a manageable size. He's somewhat of a new father. He's got a 10-year-old daughter now, a little later in life, and he wants to focus on her a bit more before she turns into a teenager and runs off with her friends and, wants to do that. So there's a big demographic out there of us. And then this other group of youngsters that are getting into the car world that want to buy things and have never been in this world before. The millennials, the XYs, the G's, the J's, all the different numbers. I can't keep up with all you youngsters that want to sell cars and want to buy cars, and they need a venue as well. So a lot of opportunity for you guys, I think.
No, I agree. And I think, again, to your point, a lot of where this program came out of was the need of our users, right? Mm-hmm. We have a lot of people that, just like on your end, are reaching out and saying, hey, I have this car to sell. I need help selling it. And, it could be anyone from a daughter that acquired a car from their late father to, an executive that doesn't have time to sell the car. And, I think there's definitely a need in the space. And, as collectors and enthusiasts, we've done this for a long time, just because this is what we do, right? We use an expert to kind of manage that process and take care of it. And it's just a part of our day to day. And we don't think about what about 90% of everyone else that have cars to sell and ultimately they need help selling them.
Absolutely. When you think about selling a car, and we've talked about a lot of them, challenges and obstacles when it comes to selling a vehicle, a motorcycle, truck, whatever it might be, even maybe vintage boats, what would you say is the biggest challenge that people face?
I think a few things. And one, it starts with valuation, right? I think a lot of people think their vehicle or boat or motorcycle or whatever it is worth more than it actually is. So it starts with that, right? You're not going to, I always say, it's kind of just like an old school saying in the dealership industry, right? You don't make money selling cars, you make money buying cars.
Yeah.
And all that means is, if you buy right, you can easily sell cars. Cars, whether they're commodity cars or classic cars or whatever, they're still commodities, right? So if priced right, there's going to be a buyer on the other side. It's, simple supply and demand. So obviously starts with the valuation of the car and pricing it right. And then the other side is really the transparency aspect of it. I think a lot of people think that I can take a few photos of a car and it's going to sell. Maybe a Honda Civic on Craigslist that a person can drive a few blocks to look at it. But in our space, that's not the case, right?
No, typically hundreds.
90% of these cars, if not more, are sold sight unseen. And we're going to have to become even more transparent as the years go on, right? I mean, it used to be a lot of great photos sold a car. Now it's a lot more great photos by a professional photographer, along with professional videos, along with now we need to make sure we have inspections. There needs to be a third party. And I think it's a good thing for the industry because the less transparent you are, the more issues you're going to have. And that's going to just taint the aspect of, well, I'm not going to buy a car online because it's going to show up and it's not going to be what I thought.
Yep. Yeah.
So
that's the case. When I bought this turbo that I recently sold, some 14 plus years ago, it was on eBay.
Yep.
And the gentleman that was selling it was actually a broker for the owner because the owner wanted to remain somewhat anonymous. And he said some things in the listing that were completely untrue and inaccurate. But that's actually what got me to buy the car because I knew in a way the guy didn't know what he had. I took a bit of a gamble. It paid off. And then later, I learned even more things about the car. And even up to the week that I was selling it, I started having people calling going, and that's the great thing about selling online. When you have a site like yours where people can communicate, you start learning a lot of things. You become educated yourself, even if you're just following along with another auction, that you can use that information later to help when you go to buy a car to ask the right questions. I think it's making the whole industry, as you say, much more transparent, much more valid. And you can have confidence when you're going to wire that money to somebody that you're going to get what you think you're going to get and not the other way around, which is the way it used to be.
Yeah,
before.
exactly.
Yeah, it was a little spooky. I want to talk a little bit about your fascination and love for cars because you are a bit of an eclectic driver and collector of cars. You've got some cool cars, German cars, even Range Rover Classic, and I think you a W211 E63 AMG wagon. Am I right on that? Tell me a little bit about maybe one of your very special vehicle stories.
Oh, let's see here. I'll have to go with the Range Rover Classic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, believe it or not. So, just like everyone, my love of cars started when I was a kid. I grew up in the Midwest. I was born in Minnesota, lived in Minnesota when I was younger. And then my dad had an opportunity to work with his brother down in Phoenix. And so we moved down there when I was, I think it was second grade, maybe third grade. So I was, just a young kid. And my uncle had been successful down there with his company. And, he, I guess, does what successful guys do, buy nice cars. He had a great car collection. And one of those cars, well, actually two, he had two Range Rover Classics. And this was the late 80s. And so they were just being imported in the U.S. I think 87, 88 is when they started importing them into the U.S. And being a kid from Minnesota, I had never seen anything like these before. I mean, they're just super unique, different. It just kind of had this classy vibe to them. The curves, the smell of the interior was different. I guess that Conley leather that they definitely didn't have it. Definitely didn't have in the American cars. And it just stuck with me. I always loved those cars. And so let's see, it was about probably close to 7 years ago now. I was kind of on the hunt for a good one. As anyone knows these things, you have to get a good one.
Yes.
And it took me a while to find a good one. So about 7 years ago, I found the color I wanted, and not low miles, very original California vehicle. It was in Palm Desert in California. So I had a chance to buy that, ironically, through a broker on eBay, just like your story.
What year is the car?
It's 1990.
90. Okay.
And it was a great example when I got it. I've put in a lot of money into it, and it's really been it's more than a car, right? It's kind of like that car the car you always wanted. And it's, the reality is those things are, they're the most unreliable vehicle probably ever made.
Well,
but
what was amazing to me when those came out? It became this kind of cult car almost immediately. And back in the day, I couldn't figure it out because you think about that time period, I was young and new family and all this, and I'd see people with them, and I kind of got it. It was a bit of a status symbol, if you will.
Right.
But I remember having some friends who bought them, and you start getting up close to them in parts, and you go, this thing isn't really done very well.
No.
I mean, what's the deal here? Why? And it was kind of like, remember the older Jaguars were that way.
Yep.
Everybody wanted one, but they were just horrible when it came to reliability. I guess you could say the same for older Ferraris and so forth, because cars have come such a long way. But you hit the nail on the head. They're a memory for you of your youth. And I'm wondering, you sound like my son-in-law, because he grew up in Minnesota. His family moved to Scottsdale, and that's where he was, I think it was junior high school and so forth. And so, yeah, made that transition from Minnesota, which is very different, to Scottsdale, Arizona, Phoenix area, where there's, sunny all the time. People had nice cars because, Minnesota, you probably kept your nice cars in the garage, for the wintertime and so forth. So, yeah, it's all about memories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. So I'm going to be your car psychologist, crawl into your head here. You listen to Cars Yeah, you know what's coming. If you were reincarnated as a vehicle, what would you be? But more importantly, why?
I'm going to actually have to go with my my E63 wagon.
Okay. Well, now we're talking about something very different than a classic Range Rover. So what makes you an E63 AMG?
So I got married later on in life, or at least, I guess it's probably becoming more normal now. Got married in my mid-30s. I was very much a kind of bachelor, traveled a lot and enjoyed single life, and met a beautiful woman who stole my heart, I guess.
They do that.
Yeah, it happens. She has 2 kids from a previous marriage, and we got married really quick.
Instant fatherhood. Wow.
I got the instant family, and then we had another one right after we got married. So I went from, no pun intended, 0 to 60 really fast.
No kidding.
Don't regret a minute of it. But shortly after that, I came across this wagon, and they're obviously not very common. So it's not something that it's easy to come by.
Yeah.
And I bought it. I just felt like it was the car that represented me at that point in my life, and it still is. And I actually just, it's funny. I don't drive it that much, but I got it out yesterday, and I just went to the grocery store in it. So.
I was going to say it's the ultimate grocery getter. Those
things
things are wickedly cool. Yeah, I've always wanted a wagon, and we've never had one. And I don't know, maybe they don't make many wagons anymore, so they're hard to get anymore. But that one, and then the Quattro wagon, Audi wagon.
Yeah,
which are kind of cool. I still having a hard time with these giant grills, though. I don't know. But BMW's not doing any more wagons, except I think now they're coming out, but in Europe only, with the M3 wagon, the touring, which would be pretty cool. But
it's gonna be a cool car, yeah.
Yeah, but typical, we don't get it. So what's the deal with that? Not very fair. World's not fair. I don't like it. So let's talk about a great book you'd like to share with our listeners.
Ooh. Would it be horrible if I said I don't like to read?
No, I've had a fair number of folks that have said that. I
do have one though, Mark.
Okay,
I recently read. I read a book a while back that kind of always stuck with me, and I think it's a good example of, well, one, a good book, but also kind of resonates across different types of people, industries, whatever it might be. The book is called Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah. I know that book. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure who the author is.
So that's a book by James Clear, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, there's a lot of frameworks. It goes deep, but really, the premise is, making small changes, kind of transforms habits. And it's a book that seems to always come up through life in different industries that I talk to. I recently was talking to a guy I know. He's a professional, like a proprietary professional stock trader in New York. And it turns out they give this book to all of their new traders. And it's just, and then professional athletes read it. And I brought it up to my wife the other night, and she's like, oh yeah, like a lot of teachers read that. My wife's a teacher. It's one of those books that seems like every time I talk about it, no matter who it is or what industry, it comes up. So I think it was a good book. If you haven't read it, I definitely highly recommend it.
Yeah, basically it helps you in forming good habits, breaking bad habits, mastering what they call tiny behaviors that lead to remarkable results. So yeah, it's pretty good. I like the title too, Atomic Habits. You just keep working on these little things, these little atoms, and then they collide and then they blow up and everything's great. So Well, maybe not that great, but you know what I mean. There you go.
Exactly.
So we're going to go on the ultimate drive. Today, I'm your enabler. Pick a car, pick a place you want to go, and pick anybody, even somebody from the past you'd like to take, and I'll make it happen.
Oh, excellent. I'm going to start with the person.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Jeremy Clarkson.
Oh my gosh, that would be fun.
Yep. I don't care what car it is, but I want it to be one of their Top Gear special editions. I want an adventure and possibly end at a pub somewhere to have a nice conversation.
Did you have a chance, and I think they're going to end it, but Jeremy Clarkson did a series about Clarkson's Farm.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
I did, yeah.
I thought that was tremendous. I think, we got to see a part to him that I don't think we'd seen, because he's one of those polarizing characters. You love him or you hate him, and people pick on him and everything. But I think we got to see a piece of him there that was very different. I'm kind of sad they're not going to continue that series. I thought it was cool. Yeah,
no, it's one of those. He's just got I think you either love him or hate him. He's got a personality where, you could throw him anywhere and it'd be an enjoyable show for people that enjoy watching him.
Well, it's kind of like that, is it the show American Idol with Simon Cowell, where he's, kind of the one where people don't like, but they like because he's so tough on everybody. So, but yeah, Jeremy Clarkson's kind of a bit that way. So very nice. Interesting answer to that question. I'm not sure anybody's ever picked him, which is kind of unique, rare, I think, considering what's going on. And the fact that you don't carry the car, as long as it's one of their special editions, they've had a lot of nice rides on that show. Yeah, it's very cool. Well, listen, you have taken us on a fun ride today. I knew this would be cool, having other colleagues from your brand on the show here. And Classic.com is such a great resource. And for any of you listeners that have not experienced this yet, go check them out. And of course, their new Pro, if you've got a car to buy or sell, or if you're someone who knows how to properly evaluate cars, you could be part of the team there as well. So there's an opportunity. All sorts of opportunities today. Could you leave us with some words of wisdom, inspiration, or advice before we let you go today, Joey?
I think follow your passion.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, I think, that's kind of been my 5,000 foot view of everything, and it's served me well. So
yeah, absolutely. And the same comes with cars. I've said this before, and you've heard it from not just my lips, but professionals. If you're in the market to buy a car, don't buy a car because you think it's going to be worth more down the line. Buy it because you're passionate about it. You love it. It's something you've always wanted, like Joey. And for me, it brings back something from your past that maybe you couldn't have back in the day, and now you can. That has always served me well. And I'll tell you, I've been fortunate because all my collector cars and motorcycles, I've all sold for more than I paid for them. But it wasn't because I planned it that way. It's because I bought the best I could afford at the time, and I bought something quite special. And I kept it for a while and enjoyed it. And that's what this hobby's all about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool. How can people learn more about Classic.com Pro?
Well, just go to classic.com/sell. There's also a sell your car button in the header if you want to push that. And then there's, you can reach out at pro@classic.com if you're interested in getting involved in the program. And yeah, I think that's the way to get in touch. The way to go. I want to do a shout out to one of your colleagues here, Linda there at classic.com, for introducing me to Joey. And, I've got a lot of friends there now at classic.com. It's a great resource for you in so many ways. So please go check them out. Joey, thanks for taking a pit stop with me today, being so generous with your time and sharing your expertise. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you somewhere down the road. All right. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. This has been fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.